New revelations leaked by Edward Snowden to the Washington Post show the NSA violated privacy rules literally thousands of times. The NSA says these were mistakes, that they are minuscule when you look at how much information it actually collects. Now, some lawmakers are calling for a closer look at the issue, and Jennifer Griffin has the latest revelation now. Jennifer?
Doug, the May 2012 internal NSA audit showed thousands of privacy violations in 1 year alone. In some cases, the NSA was monitoring the phone records of residents of Washington, D.C., whose area code 202 is similar to that of Egypt. NSA Compliance Director John DeLong said the violations were not willful or malicious and represented, as you pointed out, a, quote, minuscule percentage of NSA surveillance activity during a rare conference call by the super-secret spy agency. NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden provided the newspapers the documents months ago. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the revelations extremely disturbing. Democratic Senator Pat Leahy said he plans to hold more judiciary hearings to investigate.
The NSA has become a menace, and the constitutional rights of Americans are under a broad assault here. The Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure, the First Amendment right for freedom of speech. These are under attack.
2,776 instances of privacy violations occurred in 1 year from 2011 to 2012 under this administration. The audit also found NSA personnel were told to water down reports to the Justice Department and Congress. The chairman of the House and Senate Intel committees continued to defend the surveillance program. Quote, "The majority of these compliance incidents are therefore unintentional and do not involve any inappropriate surveillance of Americans." But leading critics of the NSA surveillance program on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senators Mark Udall and Ron Wyden, say the latest revelations are just the tip of the iceberg. Republican lawmakers who proposed legislation to defund the program last month believe their legislation would have passed if these new revelations had come to light then. Doug?
Jennifer Griffin. Thank you, Jennifer. The NSA violates your privacy and claims that mistakes happen. So have they stopped it? Or our Fourth Amendment rights being abused? Former Arkansas governor and host of Huckabee on Fox, Mike Huckabee, joins us now to talk about whether we should believe our government. Governor, good to see you, sir.
Hey, Doug.
Should we believe our government?
It's hard to. You know, we've seen so many different ways that they've been dishonest with us, whether it's the IRS scandals, the AP scandal, the James Rosen scandal, the Benghazi scandal, the Fast and Furious scandal. And now we're being asked just to believe that 2,800 different infractions were nothing more than some accidents. Well, any of us who try to make that as an excuse, 2,800 mistakes on our taxes, 2,800 mistakes speeding when we know we were going over the limit, it doesn't wash, and I just don't think Americans are ready to buy that there's not something that needs a serious look by the elected officials of Congress. That's what they're supposed to do. They have oversight responsibility, and they need to exercise it.
Governor, I want to play you a soundbite from the president. This is what he said recently in his trying to reassure Americans about these surveillance programs. Listen up.
America is not interested in spying on ordinary people. What you're not reading about is the government actually abusing these programs and listening in on people's phone calls or inappropriately reading people's emails. What you're hearing about is the prospect that these could be abused.
I want to contrast that, Governor, with what the Washington Post reported, Barton Gellman in the Post today. He said, and I'm quoting here, "The documents include a level of detail and analysis that is not routinely shared with Congress or the special court that oversees surveillance." What do you make of that?
Well, and the president just said something that I found very interesting. He said the American people aren't reading stories that say that there's an in-depth spying going on. Actually, we are reading some, but it's not coming as a disclosure from our government. It's coming as a leak from a 29-year-old contractor who's leaking this stuff out as a result of what he believed was his disgust. And I'm not defending everything Snowden did, but if it weren't for Snowden, most Americans wouldn't have any clue the extent to which they, as American citizens, guilty of nothing, have had their phone calls and their emails confiscated by the federal government of the United States, and I believe in a very unconstitutional manner.
And that raises another interesting question about this FISA court. It is not an adversarial body. It's, I suppose, somewhat akin to a grand jury where that old expression, you can indict a ham sandwich, exists. Do there need to be changes there? Does it need to be some sort of an adversarial proceeding, or does it need to be more open?
Well, it certainly needs to have a lot more scrutiny by members of Congress. No, I don't think we need to have every decision the FISA court makes on the front page of the local newspaper. But I do think that people with some level of accountability back to the citizens, and that has to be members of the Senate and the House, there's got to be an unfettered way in which our elected officials can make sure these programs are not trampling all over the constitutional rights of Americans. And I think many of us believe right now they are, all in the name of national security, which we all want, but we've allowed ourselves to be frisked and searched at airports through TSA, and I don't know that anybody can tell us one time when the TSA has caught a terrorist at the airport checkpoint. Hot dog vendors in Times Square have caught more terrorists than the thousands of the TSA agents have.
Good point, Governor. Lastly, I want to shift gears entirely here. This Friday, we learned that the RNC, on a unanimous voice vote, agreed to ban NBC and CNN from hosting 2016 Republican debates. Here's what Reince Priebus had to say about that. Listen up.
We're done putting up with this nonsense. There are plenty of other news outlets. We'll still reach voters, maybe more voters. But CNN and NBC anchors will just have to watch on their competitors' networks.
Does this help or hurt the RNC and the Republican Party?
Well, I think it helps because it serves notice that the Republican National Committee is not going to be a patsy and just come to whatever dog food trough the networks put forward, that they're going to want to make sure that their message is framed in a venue that is not unfriendly. It doesn't have to be promised friendly. It's not supposed to be friendly. It's just supposed to be neutral, and there hasn't been neutrality. I think the RNC also needs to put a very definite position on not only how many of these debates are going to happen, who the moderators, who the questioners are going to be, but also the time allocation among the candidates, which frankly sometimes the networks make the decisions who are going to be the winners and the losers of a debate by giving 6 or 7 times the amount of attention to a candidate they consider to be the front runner. As I well know, sometimes you're stuck back in the back of the pack and maybe you get one little question, 30 seconds to answer it, and they essentially thank you for showing up and being a stage prop for the others.
Governor, great observations as always. We look forward to seeing your show tonight, Huckabee, 8 p.m. on the Fox News Channel. Good to see you, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.